They're already selling the Paczki, but they have a whole festival with music and coffee trucks and beer trucks and balloons and a Paczki eating contest.
It feels like every year during the Lent season on Fridays, if I'm not eating at a fish fry, I'm feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, I think it's partly large Catholic population, partly immigrants.
I have a controversial opinion though.
What?
No, I don't like the barbecue sauce. Like a hot dog has to have ketchup and mustard on it.
I'm Josh Duke.
And I'm Alex Darus.
And you're either listening to or watching Dine Drink CLE, the podcast where each and every week we are going to be joined by cleveland.com's best and brightest food experts, insiders, and influencers. And it's early February, so there's some Valentine's Day things that we want to get into. And there's also some, Paczki topics we want to talk about, some fish fry news, just a lot of stuff that we want to get into. So Alex, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, no, it's really weird. A lot of the food centric holidays are falling around the same time. Like the Super Bowl is coming up, and then we have Paczki Day on the 13th, which is also the day before Valentine's Day. And it's also Ash Wednesday, so the Lent season starts, and in Cleveland, fish fries are huge. So today we're joined by Paris Wolfe, who is the expert on all things Paczkis in Cleveland. Hi, Paris.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Josh.
Hey, so tell us about Paczki. How do you
Why don't you teach him how to say it
let's
first?
say Paczki. They are a pastry that is made on Fat Tuesday. It's a Catholic Lenten tradition from Eastern Europe where you use up all your baking supplies, so you're not tempted to indulge in unhealthy or sweet treats throughout the season of Lent.
Oh, I never knew that that's why they did that, but that makes sense because it is like a baking project.
Right.
And Rudy's Strudel is the hub for all things.
In Cleveland, it is.
Paczki, yeah.
They make 31 flavors.
Wow.
They have a whole festival in the morning of Fat Tuesday. They're already selling the Paczki, but they have a whole festival with music and coffee trucks and beer trucks and balloons and a Paczki eating contest.
Wow.
All that morning.
That's starting, I think you said earlier when we were talking about it, it starts around like 5 a.m.
Yes. She opens at 5. People start getting in line around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And you said last year you arrived at what time?
Well, my editor suggested 4 o'clock, so I did. And I talked to a lot of people. I think they were kind of punking me a little bit.
So,
yeah.
with talking to them, what compels people to go out so early? Like, why? What is it? The vibes? What's the sort of excitement?
I think they go there because they want to be the first to get Paczki and put it on social media. But I also think the vibe. There's a lot of people to talk to. The crowd's all talking to each other. People are going up and getting coffee from the coffee truck. You want to get a good parking space. That's part of the reason I went that early was to get a good parking space.
Yeah. When you went that early, was it like more people than you thought? Kind of? Yeah.
Yeah. It took me about half an hour from where I was in line to get up to the front.
Wow. Yeah. And this year, I know every year they do a different flavor. So what is Rudy's special flavor this year?
It's a honeybee because it's Valentine's Day is the next day. So it's a whipped honey custard with a honey glaze and honey dust sugar.
That sounds delicious.
That sounds good.
I know.
Sweet.
I have to get there before the line forms.
I know.
This week.
Yeah.
So and I feel like people talk about this often, so we got to bring it up. It's the elephant in the room. What is the big difference between a Paczki and like a jelly-filled donut?
Okay. A lot of people think they're the same, but if you ask Lydia Trempe, who owns Rudy's Strudel, she will not like it. She said to me last year that the Paczki have 5 times the butter and eggs than a jelly-filled donut does. So it's a much richer product.
Oh, no wonder I like them better.
Yeah.
And I know you said 31 flavors. What other flavors have you tried that you're a fan of?
I like the rose petal. I've tried prune. I've tried custard. I think I tried maple bacon last year.
Ooh.
Just a little bit of each.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is like the strangest thing you can like fill a Paczki with?
Well, they do savory ones at Rudy's too, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Some of the meat ones are a little unusual because you don't expect that. So you can get lunch and then dessert.
Yeah. And they look
All at
exactly the same. And I guess like what other, I know but Rudy's is kind of the hub, but are there any other places in Greater Cleveland that you would suggest people maybe if they're wanting to kind of celebrate in the tradition with Paczkis to go
We're doing
try?
a list and you can find them everywhere from the West Side Market to some of the bakeries on the East Side, the West Side. I would like to try the Big Mouth Donut Paczki. I think that given the quality of their donuts, I think their Paczki might be pretty good.
Yeah, that would be delicious.
Yeah, and we covered recently that Fairfax Market just opened up, and there's a Big Mouth Donuts in there, so maybe
I know.
find it in there.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll be doing that.
I know.
Participating in Paczki Day.
I know they are doing Paczki out of their location, and you can order in advance too.
Yeah, and that's in Rocky River.
Rocky
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, that'll be very exciting. I know, Josh, this will be your first Paczki Day. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, absolutely. Not so much looking forward to getting up so early. But I know that just in my experience covering things like the Christmas L
First pour
party, I'm imagining it's going to be very similar to that, where people are just feeling so festive and out and about, even though it's cold, even though it's early, people are just super excited and just talking to those people and finding out why and tasting that Paczki.
Yeah. No, I kind of realized too, like kind of going off of that is like, it's this lull season, like the winter, we think there's nothing to do, but in Cleveland, especially if you're a foodie, there's kind of a lot of stuff to do. There's the Paczki Day. There's, Dingus Day is usually in the springtime too. Like there's just a bunch of different food things going on to keep us busy, thank God.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you don't mind braving that cold, there you go.
Yeah, bundle up. and if you eat enough Paczkis, maybe it'll be like your natural bulking weights will warm you up.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Lent season, Alex, we have Mark here who is going to talk a little bit about fish fries and a guide for that, because obviously it's associated with the Lent season. And so, yeah, welcome, Mark. Tell us about it.
Yeah, fish fries, it's that time of year, which means I get to compile our weekly guide. And last year I think we set a record last year. We had between 70 and 80 fish fries, and these are just the nonprofits. So these are Boy Scout troops, VFW halls, and a ton of churches throughout Northeast Ohio. There are so many, it's just amazing. And, our colleague Paris is putting together a guide to what restaurants are doing. It's a huge thing in Cleveland. It really, really is.
Yeah. Why do you think it is such a big thing in Cleveland that we like? It feels like every year during the Lent season on Fridays, if I'm not eating at a fish fry, I'm feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, I think it's partly a large Catholic population, partly immigrants. This city was built on neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are built with ethnic churches and areas, and it's a big thing. And as our editor pointed out to us, it's also churches realized a long time ago this is an easy and quick way to raise money. It's a fundraiser. These are affordable. They're pretty neat. They sound great when I'm compiling them because it's not just one type of fish. You've got haddock, you've got cod, of course, lake perch, you've got shrimp, and then it's not only fish offerings, even though it's called fish fries, but almost all of these places offer pierogi. So there's that ethnic component as well. Mac and cheese, a lot of them have kids meals. And it really is incredible how wide-ranging they are. I mean, I'm only about halfway done with the guide as we're recording this, and I'm sure I'm going to have quite a bit more come in. But they stretch. This year, I've got them from Amherst to the west to Warren in the east. Last year, I had a church in Pennsylvania say, "Hey, Mark, can we be included in your guide too?"
Wow,
it's really tremendous. But they're obviously very, very popular.
Yeah, no, and I know, speaking of some of the restaurants now, I know some of the places like Cafe Avalon, they're doing like a gluten-free fish fry for people and then you have the more classic restaurants like Prosperity Social Club every Friday. Not only do they do the fish fry plate with the pierogies and everything, but they'll do seafood paella and all these different kind of seafood dishes and stuff. on my list this year is Eugene at the Bottle House Brewery. I think they have locations in Lakewood and Cleveland Heights. They do an amazing fish fry. They make it with Lake Erie walleye, and they have homemade hush puppies and everything. It's really good. So, but it's always it's a good time of the year, even if you're not Catholic. If you're just a foodie, it's a good time of the year.
It's also one of those few events that I think is not like, some events are geared toward young people. Some are geared for maybe older or certain groups of people. This is like everybody. It's family friendly, but you can have couples going in there. It's clearly a tradition in this area. So I think that's kind of a draw in and of itself as well.
Yeah, for sure. And also, speaking of the time of year and everything, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. That's also a big food and drinking holiday. I know one thing that is a big Cleveland Valentine's Day tradition is the Mally's chocolate strawberries. Is that something have you ever had them, Josh?
I haven't. Tell me about it.
You've never, they only release them on Valentine's Day, I think, and maybe Sweetest Day too. But I feel like people line up out the door the second they open, and they're like the best chocolate covered strawberries, and I don't know why.
So more lines in the winter.
Yes.
Great foodie event.
But it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I sat down with Mike Malley a couple weeks ago to talk about this, and I said, so is Valentine's Day your Super Bowl? And he said, well, maybe not the Super Bowl, but it's definitely the playoffs. But it really seems pretty close, because he made a point of saying the biggest revenue producing days for Mally's are the 13th and 14th of February. So this is a big deal. You're right. I mean, it's really popular. It's only once or twice a year. And the wild thing is, and I had forgotten this, but a while back, and I don't remember, it was maybe 10 years ago, they didn't have it. They didn't have it because something happened to strawberries, and they just couldn't get the crop in. And they're on a very short window. Strawberries do not have a very long shelf life. You've got to be able to get them in, get them coated, get them through the line, box packages, checked, inspected, and sold in a very short span of time. So it was interesting talking with Mike, because, it really shows you they're still, they're a larger business, but it's still a small business, and they're very contingent on the weather and all these other challenges. So, but you're right. It's so popular. I think it's neat having the show today, because we're talking about so many Cleveland traditions, and we've talked about punchku, we've talked about Christmas ale launch, we've talked about fish fries, and now strawberries and chocolate at Mally's.
Yeah, no.
You know what sounds really good though?
What?
Injecting those strawberries with some good old vodka.
Oh my God.
Does it not?
Okay, well, you can try it. You'll get a box and try to make it yourself at home, and then you got to go talk to Mike Malley and tell him your $1 million idea.
Or if you want a side hustle, I can't, But I'm just saying, if you wanted to offer your friends or family for maybe a quick little.
Well, that's like on Kelly's Island. They do at one of the bars, like a strawberry shot, and it's like in the strawberry with whipped cream, and that is good.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. Set the stage, set the mood with the chocolate covered strawberries with a little bit of a spice to them.
It sounds like, I'm putting together a list of Valentine's Day events to do around Cleveland, and Flight Cleveland, which is like a wine bar on the west side, they're doing love and hot dogs, I think they're calling it, and it's with Frankie Lynn, the hot dog place that I've talked about them before. I love them. They're a hot dog stand, but they're literally doing wine pairings with hot dogs, and that sounds like your kind of high-low combination.
It sounds interesting. I try it for sure, but when I think hot dogs and I think wine, I never think of them together. So I don't know, Mark.
I think it's a great mix.
Okay.
I really do. I am not one to say if you drink wine, you have to have a highfalutin meal. Pizza and wine is fantastic. There's a lot of good variations with that. And I've had hot dogs. My wife loves a certain brand out of Erie, Pennsylvania called Smith's. We grill them out 2 or 3 times a year. We have friends over, and we crack over really good red wine. And it is a great pairing.
Yeah. No, and I know, kind of going off of that too, I feel like people always think about champagne with the Valentine's Day too, but it's like there's so many things you could, even getting the events around town, like the breweries are doing beer and cheese pairings and different things like that. It's like you don't have to just pop the bubbly on Valentine's Day too.
Very true.
So, and speaking of hot dogs, we're joined by Pete Chakerian, Best of reporter, who has been doing his Classic CLE Eats column and recently delved into a very Cleveland classic, the Polish Boy. So, hi, Pete.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit, what is a Polish Boy and why do Greater Clevelanders love it so much?
Well, the Polish Boy is like the quintessential Cleveland sandwich. It just recently was named one of the top 10 hot dogs in the world. It's hard to dispute that. It is a flavor explosion. There's all kinds of different things going for it. You have your French fries piled on top of a Polish kielbasa, then coleslaw is sort of put on top of that, nice creamy sort of layer to it, and then smoky barbecue sauce on the top of that. I mean, what's not to love? It's like not a graceful thing to eat, but absolutely delicious. And I think because the cold weather has been bugging me, it was like on my mind to write about a Polish Boy because I want one. Like, after we're done here, I want one.
Yeah. So it has to be a kielbasa. It can't be like a hot dog, a frank. Okay.
Yeah, it has to be.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I love Polish Boys. That is one of my favorite treats, eats, anything. I grew up really getting them mostly from this place called Kim's Wings, I think. If you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
know. Yeah, that to me is like the best Polish Boy in Cleveland, in my personal opinion. But I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Where's your favorite places to get?
Yeah, I know you had mentioned a few relics of the past, like the hot sauce Williams and stuff like that. But what were some others that stand out to you?
Well, Hot Sauce Williams was my introduction to the Polish Boy. I love Kim's Wings. Their version of the Polish Boy is really great too. But there are a lot of people that are doing a fantastic job with it. Whitmore's Barbecue is sort of recognized as being the one locally that started it, 70 plus years ago. And I like theirs a lot too, but there are a lot of other places to get them. B&M Barbecue is definitely one of those places too. And more recently, there's a food truck that Cleveland State University has on campus that's called the Long Ship. And they do one that is like an oversized kielbasa, and they use these like flat French fries so they can fit an awful lot of them on there. It's really something to behold, and they're getting ready to roll out that truck, I think, in March. So I'm excited about that too.
That'll be delicious.
And it's pretty amazing and affordable. Like you could cut it in half and feed 2 people. It's really big.
Yeah, for hungry college students, no better option there. I went to CSU too. I don't know if I told you this. So like if I could have just gone outside instead of getting whatever thing I always kind of get from the cafeteria, man, that would have been really bomb.
Wow.
We're going to have to do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I have a controversial opinion though.
What?
No, I don't like the barbecue sauce. Like a hot dog has to have
Blasphemy.
ketchup and mustard on it for me. Or at least mustard.
No, barbecue sauce on even a normal hot dog is a really good choice, especially like when you're grilling a barbecue outside. Yeah, it is just perfect. It's just a good summer snack for me.
I think from a flavor profile standpoint too, you're talking about a very garlicky sausage as opposed to maybe a little more mild hot dog. And so there's something about that that really works into the whole package. It's a total package, that flavor profile.
Yeah.
And all of the different textures going on with it. You have to have that smoky barbecue sauce, in my opinion. Absolutely.
But you're
I'm wrong.
So do you like Polish Boys?
Yeah. No. I mean, it's really hard to think of something I won't eat in general, but yeah. No, I love any regional like hot dog sausage that I'm into that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the mess of them. It's part of the appeal for me. It's like,
yeah,
it's like you never just like eat it and then you're done. There's also like little fries or bits of bread or coleslaw to like clean up and like have that second meal from.
Your scraps.
Yeah, the scraps. I love that about Polish Boys. It's a nice little thing. And one thing for me is like anytime I have family that visits from out of town, like that's one of the first things they're asking for is like, where can I get a Polish Boy?
Yeah.
Do you guys have similar experiences? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely a lot with people who live in areas who don't have like pierogies. Like they'll be like, what? It's like, you've never had a pierogi? But no, I've definitely the Polish boy or like even the Frank's bratwurst at the West Side Market. Like people always ask for that too.
That's always a solid choice too. I have been missing Seti's Polish boys. I haven't had one of those in a while. Seti, of course, Seti Martinez, who is a veteran, I believe a Vietnam veteran. He has had some health problems, and so the truck that he's had at like on the 40th block of Lorraine has been kind of an intermittent thing. He hasn't been out there at all lately, just sort of recovering from whatever health issues he's had. So one thing I want to mention too, there is a fantastic sort of play on the Polish boy that Gunselman's has. They have two different varieties of this flatbread that are basically, it's like a flatbread, but it's a pierogi, if that makes any sense. And so they build Polish boys, a sweet version and a really hot, spicy version on this flatbread. And it is like nothing I'd ever had before. That is craveable for sure.
That sounds like what people who've never been to Cleveland before need to eat to get a feel for it.
It sounds good. I love spicy stuff. I am getting a little heartburn as I'm thinking about it, though. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I was feeling that before when we were talking about the fish fries. I'm like, man, this is going to be a rough spring. I can feel the weight gain as I'm sitting here.
It's bulking season. Thank you for listening or watching the Dine Drink CLE podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at DineDrinkCLE and subscribe to our newsletter at cleveland.com/newsletters. Thanks.